right, City Clerk, could you take the roll, please?
Alderman Ruth Simmons.
Here.
Alderman Suffredin. Here. Alderman Ravel.
Here.
Alderman Rainey.
Here.
Alderman Fleming.
Here.
Alderman Fisk. Here. Alderman Braithwaite. Here. Alderman Nguyen. Here. Alderman Wilson. Absent.
Okay, terrific. Welcome, everybody, to the Monday, August 13th, 2018 Evanston City Council meeting. We've got 8 of the aldermen here. I know Alderman Wilson could not make it this evening. We have. We'll start with the mayor public announcements. We're in the dog days of summer right now, when the Chicago Cubs come from behind and hit a grand slam with 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th inning with a rookie up to bat. But that's the time of the year we're at. We're also at that time of year when young people are finishing up their summer jobs and their internships, and we have several of them with us this evening, and I would like to recognize them. So we're going to take a couple of minutes to recognize them, and they're all part of the Mayor's Summer Youth Jobs Program that has been around here in this city for a long time. So I'm going to ask Lawrence Hemingway, our Parks and Rec Director, just to make a couple remarks.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Clerk Reed, Assistant City Manager Storley, and members of council. It's my pleasure tonight for us to introduce these young people as part of the department's Mayor Summer Youth Employment Program. I would like to bring up the program coordinator, Ms. Portia Davis, who's going to walk you through the individual accolades tonight.
Good evening. All right. Hello, Mayor Haggerty, members of City Council, Assistant City Manager Ms. Storley, and Clerk Reed. In March 2018, over 584 youth attended the annual job fair held at Evanston Township High School. We are proud to say that we have been consistent with employing over 500 Evanston youth throughout the summer months, with over 40 work sites throughout the city of Evanston. We are here today to recognize students who have gone above and beyond their requested duties by working diligently throughout the summer, giving their all. Here represented today, we have the City of Evanston's Public Library, the Health and Human Services, Property Standards, Community Development Department, as well as Public Work Agency, Parks, Recreation and Community Service Department, and Northwestern University, to name a few. We will begin to acknowledge our summer youth according to their award categories, starting with perfect attendance. Please stand. Perfect attendance are our students who have demonstrated their commitment to their job and employer by showing up every day eager, on time, professional, and ready to work. Summer youth who are receiving the Outstanding Service Award, please stand. The Outstanding Service Award is for our youth who have been dedicated, persistent, and eager to go above and beyond expectations to achieve work objectives and goals. Our last group to acknowledge is our first ever Kingian Nonviolence Summer Institute, partnered with the Addie Wyatt Center for Nonviolence. Please stand. The Summer Institute was a 6-week program that taught participating youth the different types and levels of conflict, Martin Luther King Jr.'s principles and steps of nonviolent conflict reconciliation, and how to conduct a nonviolent campaign. Students become certified trainers who in the fall, those same youth returning to Evanston Township High School will get the opportunity to work with faculty and staff to create a Peace in the Schools program during the 2018-2019 school year. Thank you all for allowing us to represent and acknowledge our young people who have participated in this year's Mayor's Summer Youth and Employment Program. Can you all stand up and stand in front of the podium so we can have a picture?
All right. We had, just as a reminder, we had close to 600 youth attend the Mayor's Job Fair at ETHS this year. We had over 500 youth that were part of the Mayor's Summer Youth Employment Program, and we had over 40 employers in this community that participated in it. So it's wonderful to see sort of the opportunities that are availing themselves to these young people and the promise that was in this room, and walked out with their parents feeling really, really good. As you all know, sometimes people really struggle in life, and as mayor, I've mentioned this before, I have observed it in a way that I didn't see it before I was mayor, and I'd just like to do something to sort of drive home. This is, and I'm going to proclaim this National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, which is this upcoming month, September 2018, and we acknowledged it last year. I'd like to do something a little different this year for people that are willing to. If you have had someone close to you, whether it's a family member, whether it's somebody that you worked with, whether it's a friend that committed suicide, would you mind standing up? And let's just take a second and look around the room at all the people that are standing up. Thank you. I don't always do this, but I'm going to read this proclamation because I think it's really important for us all to just sort of take this in. Whereas September is known as National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, which helps promote resources and awareness around the issues of suicide prevention. It teaches how to help others and how to talk about suicide without increasing the risk of harm. And whereas suicidal thoughts can affect anyone, regardless of age, gender, background, and is the third leading cause of death among young people. Whereas Evanston, Illinois is no different than any other community in the country, but chooses to publicly state our full support behind local educators, mental health professionals, athletic coaches, PAC leaders, and parents as partners in supporting our community and simply being available to one another. And whereas local and national organizations like Suicide Prevention Services are on the front lines of a battle that many still refuse to discuss in public, now therefore I, Stephen Howard Haggerty, the mayor of the city of Evanston, do hereby proclaim September 2018 as National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month in the city of Evanston, and encourage all citizens to take the time to inquire as to the well-being of their family members, friends, and neighbors over the next few days, and to genuinely convey their appreciation for their existence by any gesture that they deem appropriate. Thank you. City Manager, do you have any updates?
Yes, we're going to have a brief update on CIP projects given by Laura Biggs, our city engineer.
Thank you, Mayor, City Clerk, and Alderman. My name is Laura Biggs, and I'm the City Engineer. City Manager asked me to give an update on some of our major projects going on. So the first project I want to give an update on is Fountain Square. The project is actually complete with the exception of the memorial wall honoring our veterans and the fountain piping. So the fountain piping had been installed with some leaks. The lines are being lined. That process is supposed to be complete this week, hopefully, in which case we'll begin the testing of the fountain to make sure that the software programming is working properly. That process we hope will conclude in the months of August and September. And then the glass panel, the memorial wall, the initial installation was delayed because of some issues with glass panels. There's one glass panel that we're working to get replaced currently. That is actually expected to be delivered on site and installed by the end of August. So the project, there's a change order on the agenda tonight for Christopher Burke Engineering and to extend their contract to go through the end of the calendar year, but we are actually anticipating that the work should be completed before that. So that's Fountain Square. The next project that I'd like to speak about is the James Park North Athletic Fields. This project was constructed in 2017. It involved putting in a new baseball field and relocating a soccer field at James Park on the north side. That project actually was completed in 2017, except for the establishment of the grass. And it was the hope that we would be able to get the bulk of the grass establishment done during the spring, but unfortunately the weather did not cooperate with us. And so on this project, and excusing the pun, that we are literally waiting for the grass to grow on this project. We were concerned because it had taken so long to grow. We actually consulted with some outside companies other than the contractor to determine if the contractor should be doing anything differently. Those companies verified that, in fact, the contractor was instituting an appropriate plan, and so there's been a lot of improvement over the last 4 weeks. I know that it looks like there's just a lot of weeds growing simultaneously to the grass. In the realm of landscape establishment, dealing with the weeds is actually not really that big of a problem once the grass is established. But if we work to remove the weeds now, then we risk the danger of damaging the little baby grass blades that are growing. So we are waiting for the grass to be established. It looks like we will have pretty good luck finishing that process to the point where we can do the weed management this fall, and then our hope is that the field will be in service in spring of 2019. I wanted to mention the Cureton Place pipelining project that we've been doing under construction this year. So on Tuesday, August 7th, our contractor in situ form was preparing to do work on a 24-inch main located on Kirk between Darrow and Dodge, and they had inserted some equipment into the line, and then we had a very intense rain event, and that equipment was enough to block the line and cause the combined sewer to surcharge. This resulted in properties experiencing basement backups. There were actually 15 properties that we're aware of that experienced the basement flooding, mostly on the 300 and 400 block of Dodge Avenue and in the 1600 block of Kirk. So In Situ Form has been really proactive in trying to deal with this. They've distributed 225 notices to different properties, asking residents to contact them if they are having any basement backup. They contracted with Servicemaster right away, and Servicemaster's gone in and done some cleanup of the various properties that are effective. They hire a claims adjuster to deal with any insurance claims that came, and if a resident would prefer to deal with this on their own, they will reimburse the resident for the damages. This was a really horrible problem, and I don't want to downplay how disruptive it is to have this happen to you as a resident. I think we all know that this is not a minor thing. The city of Evanston has 144 miles of combined sewer, and we have worked to line 40 miles of that, of which In Situ Form has actually done about 20 miles of the lining. They were one of the original companies that helped develop this technology. And in that time, neither us nor In Situ Form in this Chicago area has ever had a problem like this. So In Situ Forms actually had to kind of develop a whole process because they really weren't, it's not something they've ever had to do before, but they have tried to be proactive, and we'll continue to work with any residents that have experienced any issues to get this resolved. The contract is now complete, so there should not be any potential for anything like this happening. So moving on to the next project, Sheridan Road. So this is a project that we began in 2017. We did the initial improvements on Sheridan Road from the downtown area starting on Chicago Avenue up north to Lincoln Street, and that work was basically completed in 2017. And now in 2018 we are working on Lincoln Street north to Isabella at the Wilmette border. This work is going very well. We are currently working on the reconstruction of the Lincoln Street Sheridan Road intersection, which is not a small thing. It's been very intrusive to people, but residents of Evanston have been very cooperative with working with us to get this work done and accommodating it. That reconstruction is planned to be complete by the second week of September in time for Northwestern students to have their move-in. Following that, we're going to begin working to get the rehabilitation and resurfacing of Sheridan Road completed north from Lincoln Street to Isabella. This is expected to be completed by the end of October. During that construction, and for the rest of construction, we anticipate maintaining one lane of traffic in each direction. So during a portion of the construction earlier this summer, there was a detour, but the detours are over and things are going according to schedule. And then the final project I wanted to talk about was Robert Crown. This project is slated to begin work this week. On Wednesday, they plan to begin installing the temporary fence around the construction site. That's going to take about a week to install. Following that, they'll begin doing some site preparation, putting together like their construction trailer and various other things on site. And then following Labor Day, they'll begin with the serious earth excavation and earth moving. That will begin early September and will actually take several months to complete while they install the caisson and then follow on with the foundations. So that project is moving along also according to schedule. So if you have any questions on any of these, of course, feel free to reach out to me. If your residents have concerns, I always encourage everyone to contact our 311 system, and they will make sure that you get directed to the appropriate place for any of our projects. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them at this time. Good, thank you.
Stay up there, Laura.
Okay.
Alderman Fleming.
I just have one quick question. In AP&W, Director Stoneback addressed how we were dealing with the contractor regarding Fountain Square. Can you just let us know if there's how we're dealing with the contractor at James Park?
At James Park, the contract was set up in a way that was a little bit different than Fountain Square and also had some similarities. So our standard policy is that we put a completion deadline in the contract for substantial completion, meaning everything except a minor checklist of items, but that it's basically usable. And following that, if the contractor does not meet that deadline, we charge a liquidated damage fee per calendar day. This is not really meant to be a penalty on the contractor. It's sort of an agreed standard amount. We usually base the dollar value on standards set by Illinois Department of Transportation for their contract values. And it's really intended to help cover costs incurred by the city of Evanston. On the contract at James Park, there were liquidated damages, but they excluded the establishment of grass. So it was substantial completion except for the establishment of grass, because as we experienced with the spring, that's so weather dependent, it's really hard to hold the contractor accountable for if it rains too much or if it's just too cold for the grass to grow. So there have been no liquidated damages levied because of failure to establish grass. However, we have worked with them and we were prepared, and this is why we brought in the outside contractors to take a look at the site. It is a clause in our contracts that we can always, with notice to a contractor that we find them in failure, basically in default of completing the work on time, that we can bring in an outside contractor and pay them to do the work, and then we deduct the cost from what we would pay the contractor. We actually did notice the contractor in the case of James Park, Eleanor, and then we brought in these outside vendors, and they basically said, well, we're going to do exactly the same thing L&R is doing. They've had they didn't necessarily find that they were doing anything incorrectly. So we've sort of kept them on notice. We've required them to submit regular schedule updates to us. We've met with their sub that is doing the grass planting, because L&R is a construction contractor that does work on our city parks. They've done a couple of other projects, including Penny Park, but they, at this point, it's just a waiting game, and haven't been any financial penalties.
So have they received the full payment for the work?
No.
Okay, thank you.
No, and in every contract that we do, when we get an invoice, we withhold a percentage of the payment, usually 5 to 10%, depending on, it starts at 10%, and then depending on how the project's going, as it gets towards the end, we might reduce it to 5%. We call retainage, and we hold that money, and we only pay it out at the final payment, and that is meant to cover any expenses that we incur if the contractor doesn't complete the project appropriately. So we do have, we're holding retainage. We would be able to afford to hire another contractor or a landscaper to finish the project at James Park if L&R does not perform this fall, but we aren't leveraging a daily liquidated damage penalty as we are on Fountain Square.
Great. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. That concludes my announcements.
Okay, well, thank you. And as you all know, this isn't Wally Bobkowitz sitting to my right this evening. We've got our Assistant City Manager filling in for the City Manager, Erica Storley, here. City Clerk, do you have any communications?
Yeah, very quickly, I just want to update the council and the community. The clerk's office received a referendum back in July. The final date of file objections was today. We've received 3 objections. The first hearing will be tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. Here at City Hall. Speaking of referendums, I do want to clarify for the community. There has been discussion about a referendum to make the clerk's office appointed. There has been a notion that I support making the clerk's office appointed. As the elected clerk, I can clarify for the entire community and Mr. Smith at Evanston Now and the writer of that article that I do not support making the clerk's office appointed. I believe it should be an independent office. And finally, on August 22nd, the clerk's office will host an information session, a discussion on participatory budgeting. August 22nd at 6:30 p.m. Here at the Civic Center in room 2402. We'll have Taya Crum from the Great Cities Institute, from UIC's Great Cities Institute, speak about participatory budgeting, as well as staff members from John Arena, the 45th Ward Alderman of Chicago. Staff members from his office will be here to talk about their process, as well as a few other panelists and myself. So we hope that the community can join us for that.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. City Clerk. Alderman Rainey.
Are those objections going to be heard tomorrow?
No. So just the objection that was received about a week ago will be, the initial hearing will be tomorrow, and then the 2 objections that were received today, we'll schedule that when the mayor officially receives them.
Okay.
Can we find out how can people find out what the objections are?
That's what I mean, I can provide it for you, but FOIA is a tool that is always available. But if you, Alderman Rainey, you will receive them as a member of the board.
Yeah, but that'll be later.
I mean, I guess
But
for
can
the
we
rest
go
of us
online
standing-
and find out?
But just to clarify, I think this is pretty straightforward, and correct me, City Attorney, if I'm wrong. Once I officially receive, and I haven't received as the mayor yet so that'll happen this week. When I officially receive, that sets the clock for when this hearing has to take place. It will be a public hearing for anyone that's interested to come, and just like our city council meetings where there's a packet, there will be information, and I presume it would be the appeals or protests that are submitted. Is that correct?
Correct. It's a very tight time clock. After you officially receive it, the city gets 3 to 5 days, not business days, to actually open and receive the complaint and start the hearing.
Okay.
So just as a point of information, what's tomorrow's meeting about then?
Objection.
Well, tomorrow's meeting is the first objection that we received, and it was somebody objecting and saying that the referendum isn't in compliance with
The Lakefront
Master Plan. So that's what the committee will hear tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay.
You haven't been notified.
So
of
has
the
it
other.
been?
I have not. I have not been notified of
Officially.
the other. Again, it just came into the clerk's office today, so we'll get together. Again, part of this is scheduling. We've got to get the senior alderman, the clerk, myself, and so that all dictates when this stuff's transferred over.
And I think just for the general public, what you guys are speaking about is the citizen petition on Harley Clark, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. All right. With that, we're going to move into the next agenda item, and this is the real estate transfer referendum. Okay. So this is almost going to, the way we're setting this up this evening, it's almost going to be a hearing within a hearing. So I actually have a pretty scripted statement that I'm going to make so that everybody understands what's going on here, and then we will allow for public comment on just this this public hearing. So the next agenda item for the City or Council is the public hearing for the real estate transfer tax increase being held pursuant to Home Rule Real Estate Transfer Tax Statute 65 ILCS 58-3-19 to receive public comments on the proposal to increase the City of Evanston real estate transfer tax in a progressive manner. All persons desiring to be heard on the proposed real estate transfer tax increase will now have an opportunity to present written or oral testimony. I'm going to keep reading and then we'll get to that actual testimony. Resolution 60-R-18, which was in the packet that was put out by the city, will propose during the November 6, 2018 gubernatorial general election to the voters of the City of Evanston an increase in the real estate transfer tax from $5 for every $1,000 of value or fraction thereof per transaction to $5 for every $1,000 of value or fraction thereof per transaction up to $1,500,000. $7 for every $1,000 of value or fraction thereof per transaction from $1,500,000.01 to $5 million, and $9 for every $1,000 of value or fraction thereof per transaction from $5 million and 1 cent or more. Notice of this hearing was published in the Chicago Tribune, a newspaper of general circulation in the city, on August 2nd, 2018, more than 10 days and less than 30 days before this hearing. The City Council has on file a copy of the publisher's affidavit showing said publication. Do any aldermen have any comments regarding the proposed real estate transfer increase? Alderman Rainey.
So what you just said is if we buy or sell a house in Evanston that costs less than $1.5 million, right, there will be absolutely no change if this referendum passes.
That's correct.
I see. Okay.
Any other discussion amongst the council at this time? Okay, seeing none, we're going to open this up for public comment. And these are public comments only concerning the proposed real estate transfer tax increase. We have 12 individuals that have signed up. I'm going to ask if you would try to keep your comments within 3 minutes. We have another 31 people that have signed up for the regular public comment this evening. So Bonnie Wilson is the first speaker, then Don Schollenberger, then Janad Rizki.
3 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor Haggerty, City Clerk, and Alderman, and Erica Stoller. I'm Bonnie Wilson. I live in the 3rd Ward and have been a realtor in Evanston for over 30 years. Before I start my comments, I just want to ask the mayor, did you say it was for the transfer stamps were for the buyer or the seller? Did you mention?
You know, I don't know if the language. There's no change. It is for the seller, but I don't.
But when you increase the.
Yes, it all remains with the seller, the way it's set up right now.
And you did say that.
I don't know if
I said that.
City Attorney, I don't know if that was included in the actual language that I read. Again, I was very specific to read this language as it was prepared by our law department. And does that specifically state that?
Excuse me. Resolution 60R18 specifically says the seller in the section 2 of the resolution.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let me begin my comments. As a realtor in the community, I strongly oppose increasing the city's transfer tax. This proposal would ensure Evanston has the highest transfer tax among North Shore communities and 5th highest in Illinois. While I can appreciate the difficult budget challenge you face, an increased transfer tax is not a reliable or sound solution. Using residential data over the last several years, this new tax will not provide a reliable stream of revenue. From 2015 to 17, transfer tax revenue from residential properties selling over $1.5 million shows each year can change by as much as 40%. Commercial properties, by their nature, are even more inconsistent. Despite inconsistencies in revenue, the proposed increase of up to 80% for the highest valued properties will have consistently negative impact on our community. It will provide further disincentive for commercial and residential rental development in Evanston. Please keep in mind, commercial and larger residential rental properties already pay more in taxes because they are assessed at a higher rate. This is not free money for the city. By your own estimates, you are taking $850,000 a year from the people that are investing in our community. We believe these people mean more to the community than just a revenue stream for city government. Adding to the cost of doing business in Evanston is not a sound solution to our budgetary problems. Please vote no on increasing the city's transfer tax. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Bonnie. Dawn, then Janad Rizki, then Claire Kelly.
I'm Don Schallenberger. I live in the 1st Ward, 1864 Sherman. I, too, am a realtor here in Evanston with Baird & Warner. I want to go back to something I started on at the last meeting. I think I was number 61 out of 60 speakers, as I remember. So I didn't exactly get to say everything I wanted to say. But what I tried to allude to at the time is the issue, has there been any long-range plans for future revenues? And if there has, have they been followed? And if not, is it time for them to be revised? And if not, we need a new plan. The transfer tax as proposed by Alderman Rainey is at best a temporary fix for a long-term problem. I have every sympathy for all of you in the need to raise revenue to pay bills. As a member of the Government Action Committee of the North Shore Board of Realtors, we see this all the time in many municipalities. It's not something that's particularly unusual just for Evanston. Temporary or short-term stopgap measures such as the revised real estate transfer tax is not the answer. In closing, I urge all of you to vote for the vote no on the real estate transfer tax, and that more time needs to be done on long-range planning. And if I might just say one thing, I think Alderman Fisk is very much to be congratulated on the job she did in chairing what was a rather horrific meeting.
Great. Thank you, Don. Janad Rizki, Claire Kelly, then Jennifer Shader. Okay. Okay, Jennifer, we'll get you on that one. Oh, and Claire too, possibly. Okay. All right. If I go through and you're on the other one, just let me know, and then we'll put you on the other. Good evening.
Good evening. Citizens should vote no against this real estate transfer tax, but I have a different angle I'm coming from. The simple reason is the council isn't really fixing the budget mess, but covering it up. It's basically the council has not addressed what is the real number here for the budget crisis. At one point, there was a memo issued that outlined all the problems. I went through that and did my own analysis, basically. We're probably, depending on what this council tries to fix, 20%, maybe 50% property tax increase. That's how much big the problem is. And I've said numerous times, the problem has been created not by the programs here, but by the misuse of money on all kinds of things and a lot of mistakes and problems. And we don't seem to want to fix them, we want to hide them. And that's the problem here. And I've said this many times. We see Fountain Square, all kinds of things here that are just out of control. And frankly, all this economic development, all these things are causing problems. And each little thing is adding up. And the real estate transfer tax is a tiny thing here. And basically, you're going to have to raise property taxes to fix all this. And that's really the problem. It's huge what's coming. And really, this council doesn't want to face any of this. It just wants to keep on spending money. It's just getting worse. I strongly believe in it. We need an independent audit of the city books, and a new city manager needs to come in here and look at things. Whether it's an interim city manager or something, we need to fix this mess. And it is a big mess. And tonight, an alderman suggested a bill we're paying for Comcast is something we should negotiate with such outrageousness. I mean, really? A bill for Comcast? I mean, you're worried about a bill at the police outpost for Comcast when we're millions of dollars in the hole here? And, you know, our cash reserves are down, I believe, to the point, basically, it's $1.5 million for several years to up those cash reserves. Those cash reserves didn't go down because of basically basic spending here. They went down from all the problems. And I was talking to someone today, and I understand the James Park lawsuit is still going on, and we might be spending another $500,000 on it. And we're still arguing that the water's contaminated, by the way, I heard. So that's pretty interesting. All these problems, all these lawsuits, and tonight the same thing about this, all this damages with Fountain Square. And you're basically have another thing on the agenda. You're going to pay another contractor a settlement of $200,000. Same thing with this lawsuit at Fountain Square. You're going to get into a lawsuit and lose. So this is a problem here, and I keep saying it. You've got to fix it. You can't pretend the realtor take a real estate transfer tax and fix the problem. You have a big, big problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I think Claire and Jennifer are next. We've got are going to move on to the other public comment. Next, we've got I can't. They're going to speak there. I can't read this name very well. Rich Fatiz. Rich
Faddis.
All right. Welcome, Rich. And then we've got Rachel Human and then Kathleen Eggman. Okay.
My name is Rich Faddis. I live in the 2nd Ward of Evanston, and I am with Reclaim Evanston. My colleagues and I are here to speak to the referendum question that is being considered to raise the real estate transfer tax for the city of Evanston, which we support. In 2009, the city of Evanston issued a plan for affordable housing that declared a vision for the future of Evanston. That vision stated that all Evanston residents, regardless of age, race, national origin, family size, socioeconomic level, sexual orientation, or ableness, have access to safe, decent housing that is affordable, i.e., costs no more than 1/3 of the household's income. As a resident of the 2nd Ward in Evanston, I believe more affordable housing is needed in the 2nd Ward where I live and in every ward in Evanston. The text for the referendum being considered tonight, should be modified to include affordable housing as one of the uses of the increased revenue from the real estate transfer tax. And on a personal note, before my colleagues speak, I live in a block of 10 homes on Washington Street. Out of those 10 homes, 4 of my neighbors have been forced to move within the last decade because they could no longer afford to live in Evanston. One of the residents lived there for more than 40 years.
Thank you. And then we have Rachel.
Good evening. My name is Rachel Human. My husband and I live in the 3rd Ward of Evanston, and I am with Reclaim Evanston. The city's 2017 action plan for spending almost $2 million in federal funds, which was approved by the City Council in July 2017, stated, affordable housing continues to be the city's highest priority. However, maintaining and increasing the supply of affordable rental units is increasingly difficult due to reductions in funding and increases in the cost of real property. As a resident of the 3rd Ward of Evanston, I believe more affordable housing is needed in the 3rd Ward where we live, and every ward in Evanston. The text for the referendum being considered tonight should be modified to include affordable housing as one of the uses of the increased revenue from the real estate transfer tax. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We got Kathleen, then Len Lampkin. Excuse me, didn't see the P there, Len. And then Lalo Riob.
Leela Rob.
Leela, Rob, that looks, yeah. I'm having trouble reading some of the writing here. Apologize. Welcome.
It's all right. It's better than Lulu Prudo. My name is Leela Rob, and I live in the 7th Ward of Evanston, and I am with Reclaim Evanston. Recent statistics from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development show that in Evanston, there are over 4,000 households with incomes below 80% of the area median income. For a family of 4, that's between $42,000 and $57,000. Many individuals in these households are seniors who are housing cost burdened. Some are severely housing cost burdened, paying more than half of their income for housing. As a resident of the 7th Ward of Evanston, I believe more affordable housing is needed in the 7th Ward where I live and in every ward in Evanston. The text for the referendum being considered tonight should be modified to include affordable housing as one of the uses of the increased revenue from the real estate transfer tax. Thank you.
Thank you. You guys are all lined up, so I'm going to have you come in just the order you're in. And if you just introduce yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Kathleen Eggman. I am a member of Reclaim Evanston, Grassroots, Evanston Action Organization. And my husband and I, we live in the 8th Ward. The data from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development that was just referred to also shows the following. There are almost 7,000 households right now in Evanston with incomes less than half of the area median income. For a family of 4, this is an income below $40,000. Over 80% of these households spend more than a third of their income on housing. They are therefore housing cost burdened. Many of these households are paying more than half of their income on housing. These households, like mine, are often on a fixed income, and we are increasingly unable to maintain our properties, and we struggle to pay those property taxes. I've been here for nearly 40 years. As a resident of the 8th Ward of Evanston, I believe more affordable housing is needed in the 8th Ward, where I live, and in every ward in Evanston. Therefore, the text for the referendum being considered tonight, not only am I in favor of the referendum, thank you, Alderman, but it should be modified to include affordable housing as one of the uses of the increased revenue of the real estate transfer tax. That would be progressive. Thank you.
Thank you. Len?
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, City Council. My name is Leonard Lampkin. I live at 835 Ridge Avenue in the 9th Ward, and I am a member of Reclaim Evanston. Last October, the city staff stated in their white paper on affordable housing that housing is a key element of fostering a livable community, and the increasing cost of housing is requiring more people to spend an increasingly large portion of their income on housing, leaving them without the resources they need for food, health care, and transportation, as well as daycare for their children. In order to maintain Evanston's economic and racial diversity and support its mission to be the most livable city, it is necessary to create and preserve affordable housing throughout the city. I'd just like to add a little personal statement. If it wasn't for the Illinois Hardest Hit Fund when President Obama was president, I wouldn't be a resident of Evanston. I'd be homeless. I received money to help me pay my mortgage for 18 months. That's why I'm still here, and that's why I still have a condo in Evanston. So as a resident of the 9th Ward, where I live, and in every ward in Evanston, we need more affordable housing. The text for the referendum being considered tonight should be modified to include affordable housing as one of the uses of increased revenue of the real estate transfer tax. And I'll just add, the increase doesn't affect anybody if you don't sell your house. It doesn't affect the commercial developers if they're not selling their property. Most of the commercial developers build it and own it, or build it and transfer it to the condos. So the money comes over time when people decide to leave or to decide to flip their commercial property for a profit. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Len. Doug Sharp. And then I also have on the list, if you want to speak at this hearing, Betty Esther and Doreen Price. Okay.
My name is Doug Sharp. I live in the 9th Ward of Evanston, and I am with Reclaim Evanston. Almost 10 years ago, a vision was put forward by Council that all Evanston residents have access to safe, decent housing that is affordable. In 2017, Council said affordable housing continues to be the city's highest priority. In recent months, staff have documented with statistics the growing crisis of affordable housing in Evanston. The adoption of a progressive real estate transfer tax in November may be a solution to our current short-term budget deficit, but it may also be the best solution we have for finding revenues to actually fulfill a vision of 10 years ago that is yet to be achieved. As a resident of Evanston, I believe more affordable housing is needed in the 9th Ward, where I live, and in every ward in Evanston. The text for the referendum being considered tonight should be modified to include affordable housing as one of the uses of the increased revenue from the real estate transfer tax. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Miss Esther, Betty Esther, and then Doreen Price.
Good evening. On a note, in one from Clerk Reed program he had about conducting meetings and stuff, and in that it talked about public hearing, and in the state statute it said public hearing there should be a recorder. We don't have one. We haven't been having one, so we've been breaking the law a long time, so that's nothing new. But to speak to the issue of the transfer tax, let me tell you a story. Back in 2007-9, we had worked and we created the first affordable housing here in Evanston. So we found this person to buy this house. We're selling it below market rate. And this little fledgling organization came. They told, well, you have to get the transfer tax stamp. We have to get what? What is that? Went to the lawyer. Can you get it? Oh, you, okay, so go to the city and tell them this is what you're selling the house for and this is what you need. Come back. Oh, wait a minute, we got to try to raise this money because we didn't figure it and we didn't know, and we did ask for it to be waived, and the city said, no, we can't waive it. We did have our supporters, and the board did raise the money. We did sell the house. The house is still affordable. It's coming up on its 11 years. In 4 more years, it'll be 15 years being a permanently affordable housing. It won't affect people, as you say, at the lower level. But if we keep looking at how we are spending money and how you are not being careful with that, it does have an impact on people purchasing home in affordable. Because then we go to some of the people that is selling their home and trying to get it into the land trust, then they have to deal with that transfer tax, moving it into the land trust. And then they say, well, gee, we didn't know we had to pay this much. We was counting on this, so we can't do it. Then that means there is a house then that is not permanently affordable. That transfer tax, I think it should not be just drop it, leave it like it is. If you can't see yourself designating that funds for the affordable housing, then that referendum should not go on the ballot. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hester. Doreen Price.
Sometimes you meet the most amazing people in your efforts to do things, and she's been a pioneer in many ways. So I'd like to honor Betty, and I hope the rest of us also, in terms of her commitment to affordable housing and all these issues that have been around a very long time and are still near and dear to her heart, and she speaks so well. I would like to also echo it in maybe a slightly different way as someone who's also facing whether or not I can stay, depending upon the help I get. Flipping and developers have done what in excess to raise prices in ways that the homeowner, me moving in here 35 years ago, used our houses as something to fall back on. Then the recession and everything else happened, which was unexpected and took away a lot of our pension funds and everything else, monies that we had saved, so our houses are the only thing left. So now we got high taxes, and we're being squeezed, the same people being squeezed, and I think there are people who realize that we need help. And I think we should cultivate and reward people who help their neighbors. So I'm not the first one to say that because someone has a bigger house is necessarily someone who should be paying more in terms of monies, but if they were to pay more, it would be toward affordable housing, at least in good conscience, because they're leaving wanting to help us. If they're leaving because they don't like Evanston, then please help with affordable housing. We'll get some people that will live here who want to live here. But in terms of what I know, I've seen people with generous hearts who've helped me under circumstances for which they're being challenged. And I think that's brave, and I think that's wonderful, and I think there's more people like that. So my proposal would be is to keep it at 5% for everybody, especially in honor of the people who are helping this community, as previously stated, and allow the seller, or the buyer rather, to do either the 2+2 formula. In terms of the dedication of funds, it cannot be overstated that forget the general fund, make this affordable housing, and find other ways to increase monies going into affordable housing, because the issues you heard about single-family homes is now coming up finally with a great, strong voice. And I heard it today, and I was really happy. And the single housing issue is going to decrease the number of unaffordable homes. So you're looking at something that will help people and decrease the number of unaffordable homes by not raising prices of the houses. So I really plead with you to look at this differently and to come up with the positive solutions that you've been able to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Doreen. Back to my script here. Is there anyone else that wanted to be heard from the public on the real estate property transfer tax referendum? Okay. All persons desiring to be heard have been given an opportunity to present oral and written testimony with respect to the proposed real estate transfer tax increase. Okay. Okay. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 60-R-18 instructing the city clerk to submit for the November 6, 2018 ballot a referendum?
It's moved and seconded.
For I'm going to go to discussion. I'm going to go to discussion after. All right. Let me just run through a referendum for a proposal to increase the real estate transfer tax with the additional revenue dedicated to the City of Evanston General Fund. Is there a motion?
Second.
Okay. I'm going to open it for discussion. Alderman Fleming.
All right. So I have never done one of these, so forgive me, but I...
Neither have I.
All right, so I applaud the work of the Reclaim folks, and I thought about this myself, and I would like to amend. Can we amend our resolution?
Well, let's ask the, I had that question too, so let's ask the city attorney if she could speak on that topic.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Good evening, Michelle Mason, Cup Corporation Counsel. The publication that's listed in the Chicago Tribune is a general fund. The City Council could at a later date adopt a different resolution for the dedicated funding source, but what is before you is for the general fund, and that is what we have published.
So at a later date before it goes on the ballot, or at a later date after it?
After this action, the City Council could take a separate action to say instead of the general fund, we will.
Okay, so we need to vote on this one first, and then we can take a second action tonight.
No, at a later date.
So just so everybody, so I spoke to the city manager about just this point because I've heard different people. I mean, tonight we heard a lot of people say, hey, we'd like to see it dedicated into the Affordable Housing Fund. I've had other people say we'd like to see it dedicated towards the debt service on the new Robert Crown Community Center. The bottom line is the referendum, as it's stated today, needs to be voted on in those words. Later on, an alderman could put forward, a resolution that says, I would like to, specifically dedicate these funds to something, and then a draft resolution would come to the council. That could be done at any time, whether it's before the election, if this ultimately ends up on the ballot, or it could be done after that.
All right, because I would like to motion that we do a half and half to the general fund and half to the Affordable Housing Fund.
All right, but that's we can't do that right now. That's not the item right now for this.
Okay, so may I just have one more clarity point from the Corporation Council? At a later point, can you give me a little more clarity on that? Because I understand this has to go to the ballot. So
I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
Okay.
I mean, you can't do that now? Just so I understand, if I vote for this, do I have an option of changing that so that when it's on the ballot, it reflects? Or no?
The wording on the ballot isn't going to change. The wording on the ballot is the wording that you see tonight. Later on, there could be a resolution, by this council that could say, we want to use these funds for A, B, and C. Okay, Alderman Rainey?
This is the ballot question.
Right. But the reason we're so frustrated is what she's trying to say is during this conversation, we tried to express, what she's trying to express is that we are committed to co-sponsoring a motion at whatever time it's appropriate that we support splitting the fund between the general fund and the Affordable Housing Fund. And we're going to lobby our colleagues to do the same at that point in time. So we understand that it can't, and I'm sure there are other people who want to send it to the police and fire pension fund, wherever, but that's what we want to do. And so we want to make it clear that that's what we want to do.
So that could be made clear in this conversation that you're all having up here right now. Is there any other discussion on this item? Okay, we have a motion then that was seconded. City Clerk, could you please take the roll? This is on Resolution 60-R-18.
Alderman Ruth Simmons.
Aye.
Alderman Suffredin. No. Alderman Ravel.
Aye.
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Alderman Fleming. Aye. Alderman Fisk.
No.
Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye.
Alderman Nguyen.
Okay, Resolution 60-R instructing the City Clerk to submit for November 6, 2018 ballot a referendum for the proposed increase in the real estate transfer tax with the additional revenue dedicated to the City of Evanston General Fund passes the Evanston City Council on a vote of 6-2. Okay, so this referendum will appear on the ballot. Is there a motion to adjourn this public meeting?
Move adjournment. Second.
City Clerk, could you please take the roll on that?
Alderman Ruth Simmons.
Aye.
Alderman Sufferton. Aye. Alderman Ravel.
Aye.
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Alderman Fleming.
Aye.
Alderman Fisk.
Aye.
Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye.
Alderman Nguyen.
All right, I declare the motion carried and the public hearing for the proposed real estate transfer tax increase is adjourned at 9:25 p.m. All right, we're going to now move on to regular public comment. We have, as I mentioned, this may have moved just slightly, 31 people that have signed up for public comment. I do see that we have a lot of folks signed up for public comment for items that aren't on the public agenda tonight. We have 10 people signed up for the dog beach that want to talk about that, and 6 people that would like to speak about Harley Clark. As you all know, our rules are we set aside 45 minutes for public comment. With 31 speakers, I'm going to ask everyone if you can keep your public comments to 1 minute and 15 seconds. Okay, I know that's it'll force you to be right spot on with your comments. Okay, so a minute 15, I'll give you a little nudge. Okay, as you're getting up to that, and if you can wrap it up soon after, I'd appreciate it. Okay, again, because we moved people over to that other agenda, ultimately as I go through here, if I have missed you or you've already spoken, and you say, hey, I don't need to speak again, we welcome that. All right, as always, appreciate everybody's civility and respect for the different opinions that people have. Kathleen Eggman, did you want to speak, Kathleen? Okay, we're going to move on. Doug Sharp. Yeah, you're not. If you want to get up, I guess, and talk about the dog park, you can have a minute 15.
I'll be quick. I get there's a leash law. I get that there was trouble dredging the sand for this year's dog beach. I believe that another individual who will speak this evening has done good research, has an excellent idea that people who own dogs, like I do, taxpayers, would support, would endorse, and would urge you to help make a reality. So Barbara, I don't know, Mr. Mayor, I don't know where she is on your list, but if you put Barbara next, everybody will back what she proposes. She has researched this option and knows what she's talking about.
Thank you. Thank you, Kathleen. Okay. All right. Barbara Janes, why don't you come on up? Where are you, Barbara Janes? All right. And then if everybody else comes up and says, I stand with Barbara, then it'll be quick. All right. So.
Good evening. Although the city is still working on declaring that the Lincoln Street Beach is in fact public land and belongs to Evanston, the law is clear that legally that beach is ours. On the hope that you will do the right thing, stand up for the citizens of Evanston, and declare that that beach is ours, I would like to make the following plea. Lincoln Street Beach should become the dog beach. And I should tell you that we had, even though we can't congregate on the beach this year, there were 20 people here, and most of them are not familiar with the pattern of the council, and so many of them have left. But there were 20 people, and I'm personally impressed. The dog beach has been a profit center for the city. 3 years ago, when we had a real dog beach, the profit was $60,000. Last year, when we had a crappy dog beach, the profit was still $40,000. In a year when we are being nickel and dimed, this is real money that you should take the opportunity to grasp. It looks like the lake isn't going to recede in the near future. And the dog beach serves many purposes. The dogs get to run off leash, and the people get to socialize. or their owners get to socialize. And every time I meet somebody that I know from the dog beach, and I say, oh, we miss the dog beach so much. And if Evanston is going to, as they say, wants to be the most livable city, we are a group of Evanston residents who have a solution to a problem, and we would like you to create a dog beach for us.
I need you to wrap it up quick, Barbara.
Okay. And at the beginning of the summer, when we were still, is it going to open? I offered to work with the rec department to come up with some other options. I was not taken up on that offer. And if in the city of Chicago, if there are 31, according to Chicago Tonight, or 25, according to the Tribune, dog parks and beach on the north side of Chicago, and we have Zippo, what's wrong with that picture? Stand up for the people of Evanston and its dog owners who deserve to have a place to allow our dogs to run off leash, and declare that Lincoln Street Beach belongs to Evanston, and stand up for that significant group of residents by making this our dog beach.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. We could do something. You could come up here if you want to speak about the dog beach, or you could stand up in support of Barbara, and we would accept that as well, just to see the folks that are here. Stand up for a minute.
Oh, there it is.
All right. Thank you.
I think all those people ceded their time to Barbara.
All right. So if I call your name and you're like, hey, I'm with Barbara, we can move through this quicker. Let's see, Doug Sharp, did you want to speak at this? Did he leave? I think Doug left. Okay, great. So Doug's gone. Jill Zorden, or Zierden, apologize if I mispronounce. Okay, she's coming. Barbara already spoke. And then I've got Helen Hebrew, unless Barbara. You're with Barbara. I like it, Helen. How about Karen Perillia? Okay, good. All right, so no speak. Jeff Smith? All right, you'll be after these guys. Welcome, Jill.
Hello, thank you. My name is Jill Zorden. I'm a third-generation Evanstonian, and I only recently moved back to the Ninth Ward after 14 years out of the country, together with my husband, choosing Evanston to raise our 2 young children here, and I believe Evanston to be a truly special place. I can understand that the council is tired of discussing Harley Clark, and I can understand the allure of an offer to cover costs and be done with this perceived problem. But there are very real and very significant risks in moving forward with demolition, particularly so in light of the Dunes Group's disavowal of paying all project costs. They will not write a blank check. This was made patently clear at the council session on the 23rd of July. I'm sure you will hear in comments tonight valid concerns raised by local citizens regarding the undervalued estimates, funding obligations, environmental hazards, and value in preserving our historic structures. I share many of these concerns and can capture my sentiment in this. Why should we, current and future residents, value the historic fabric of Evanston if our elected representatives don't demonstrate the same regard? Like most of my fellow 75,000 Evanstonians, I can't offer you $400,000. But on behalf of citizens of Evanston, I'm here to offer you the gift of time in the form of $15,000 to cover 1 year of the city's maintenance costs of the Harley Clark Mansion. This is not in defiance of the Dunes Group, but is rather an offer to allow the city time to make a thoroughly informed decision to best honor our history and serve the citizens of Evanston today and in the future. I urge the council to accept this gift, to proceed with prudence, and to make a fully informed decision on behalf of your constituents.
Okay. Thank you, Jill. What was that? All right, you can bring that on up here, sure.
Get a picture with you.
You can. We'll see about doing that after. Okay, we got to get through here. All right, we've got Jeff Smith, and I'm going to call off a bunch of names, and just if you don't mind lining up, we've got Jeff Smith and Mike Kelly, Janad Rizki, Bennett Johnson, and then Joyce Zeese. And again, we've got a minute 15 set aside for each person, so I appreciate you respecting the time.
But you got an extra 10 minutes from all of Barb's people sitting down.
Yeah, but you didn't come to the last Rules Committee, so we're not ceding time and all that. Welcome, Mr. Smith.
Actually, I did come to the last Rules meeting.
You were at the last Rules meeting, but
okay, so you can start the clock now. But this is important from a legal sense. The MOU on the Dunes proposal had incorporated it by vote here 2 amendments that are not reflected in tonight's minutes. So an MOU sounds like a letter of intent, but if you read it, it's actually a binding contract. So you've given the city manager authority to execute a contract to demolish a $1 million plus public asset that hasn't been seen by the public or debated by this council in final printed form. And tonight's minutes also say that the certificate of appropriateness will be applied for after the MOU is executed, and the MOU itself sets that out as one of the future steps. But the July 23 resolution on the MOU also authorized applying for that certificate, which contradicts tonight's minutes. So it was done with no debate by this council on appropriateness before we even have an inked document. And because the demolition group doesn't have to pony up any money until demolition's approved, it gives this council an improper economic incentive when and if appropriateness comes back before this council in administrative review, which is going to totally taint the due process. So I urge you retract the aspect of the 723 resolution that authorizes going to the Preservation Commission and direct instead that no application for such certificate be taken to the Commission until the public sees and the Council separately authorizes executing an MOU in final form, until the Council separately debates and votes on the appropriateness of demolition, and finally, until the citizens have had the chance to speak through referendum. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. All right, we got Mike Kelly, Janad Rizki, then Bennett Johnson.
Good evening, City Council, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for your service. I've been living, I want to speak in opposition to this crazy idea to have parking apps for Northwestern football fans on game day. For a half a century, I have lived within a 5-block radius of Ryan Field. And my friends come and go on Saturdays, and it's just unconscionable to think that myself and other residents would have our guest ticketed for coming to visit us on a game day. I think that also we would not see 1 penny of the revenue as residents. You know, it would all, we would benefit not at all from this. And half of the Northwestern fans are part of the over-the-hill gang like myself and don't use apps. I mean, you are looking to sucker punch these people and really offend them to our community by I guarantee you half of the people would be, get tickets. Do we know what our neighbors in Wilmette do? They're 200 yards away from Ryan Field. How do they deal with the parking that inundates their streets as well? So these are just several.
Thank you, Mike. We got to wrap it up.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, Janad Rizki, then Bennett Johnson, Joyce Zeiss, I apologize, and Mary Demos, and then Peter Demos.
I think it's interesting. What budget crisis do we have here when we're putting artwork under a bridge? And I mean, it's the interesting thing here, though, is this council tonight is looking at a budget crisis, and you're looking to put money to affordable housing in an ordinance. It's out of control. You have no sense of what's going on, and you're wasting money on this stuff too, like this art, the so-called art under the bridge here. Wally wanted to spend $600,000 to paint a bridge we didn't own. And you know what? It's interesting. The piece of burlap has fallen off the bridge now for probably a month, and it has not been put back on. Is that a ploy to get the bridge painted, or the city can't get the job done? I mean, what's going on here, really? $600,000 to paint a bridge we don't own. So really, when we come to these meetings, it's like nobody seems to understand what's going on. It's really interesting. And Mayor Haggard, I thought you were a businessman. There's no direction here. Are you going to get some direction? Because we have no direction. You don't know what the budget crisis is even, and you're sitting up here. It's just so ridiculous. Thank you.
Thank you. Bennett Johnson. then Joyce, then Mary, then Peter, then Shapiro.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Clerk, members of the council, fellow citizens, I rise on 3 items. The West End Task Force project of locating the pumping station in the black community, Harley Clark, and the need to have black and brown kids visit the lake, and the How project, which is also implicit with race and power. Power, of course, they say is with the people, but power is also with money and influence. Solutions are simple. The West End Task Force, the pumping station should be relocated in a place where it doesn't affect the community. That's not a big deal. That should be done. Of course, there are always arguments against anything. As far as Harley Clark, one is the check that you just got, but more importantly, the people talk about a cost of rebuilding the mansion. On the contrary, it becomes an income stream from sales tax and from property taxes. So it is not a budget impact, it's a positive impact. Plus it has, again, leads to our diversity, assumed diversity and democracy. The other one is the How project, the housing of women in an area where, again, there's a lot of resistance from the community. The community should be listened to. Instead of, we're not listening to the community, we're listening to people who have power. Evanston's image is supposed to be one of diversity, democracy, both with a large D and a small d. I remember when big R, Republican. But again, race, power are the controlling factors in all of these things of which we reconsider voting to do things positive, consistent with diversity.
Thank you, Bennett. Okay, let's see. And if you don't mind, and this applies to everybody, announcing your name at the beginning. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Joyce Zeiss. I live in the 7th Ward. I've lived, my house backs on the west parking lot of the football stadium. I've lived there for 44 years, so I've seen a lot in the neighborhood. I'm here to speak against the proposal to charge the parking fee in our neighborhood for all fans who come in except for residents. First of all, the figures that are proposed, making $100,000 on this doesn't really add up. 5 of those 10 spaces on the block, I guarantee you, will be parked up by residents. So right there, we've cut it in half. I think that the proposal will probably generate more ill will than money, not just for residents who are inconvenienced, but also for fans who maybe have flown in or driven a long distance and then come to park and find out they're either going to get an $80 ticket because I don't understand what's going on, or they'll be paying $40. I would like to say that a lot of people will flock to Wilmette, and the businesses there, the restaurants there, will get the business as opposed to the ones on Central Street. So there's workers on Central Street that park in our neighborhood on Saturdays because that's where they park when they work. So I just would urge you to make our city and our football games welcoming to the people who come. Thank you. Please vote against this.
Thank you, Joyce. All right. I've got a bunch of names, but they have Dog Beach next to them, so you can just say Friends of Barbara. All right. Mary, Peter, Demos. Okay. Sorry, Caisson, Shapiro. All right. Ann, I apologize if I'm messing up all these names. Ann Matagawa. Ellie Burkerelchi. Oh, come on up. Are you Ann? Yes. Oh, come on up here, Ann. I'm going to keep going because I want you guys to line up if you're in the room. James Engelman. James, you're here, right? Okay. Irv Chocol. Is Irv here? Okay. Kathy Benz. But it looks like Dog Park there. You could say I'm with Barbara. And then Mark Tendam. Welcome.
Hi, my name's Ann Motagawa. I live in the 7th Ward, and I am really, really opposed to the football parking proposition. We have a babysitter who works for us on Saturdays. We have my parents who come to visit. We have friends who live outside the city. And the idea that we have to arrange our lives and our friendships and everything else around Northwestern football is ridiculous. We moved to where we live because we lived at Central and Asbury, and because we were right in the middle of everything, and we wanted to be a little bit further away where we could choose to either participate or not participate. And the idea that you're bringing it to our doorstep and influencing our church, which is 2 blocks away, that's weddings and funerals, and I know for a fact that they're rearranging a memorial service because of a Northwestern football game. The idea that we can't have church activities because of Northwestern football is just a little intrusive. So please don't vote for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Okay. Come on up, James. You're next. Yeah.
I'm James. Hello. I'm James England from 2040 Brown, and I would like you guys to accept the agreement with Nickenwood to sell you the water thing, because they need water very, very badly. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, James. All right. That's worth a clap. Come on, selling water to another community. All right. Excellent, James. How about Irv? Come on up, Irv. And then we've got Kathy.
How much time do I have?
Kathy. Love that.
How much time do I have?
You have 1 minute, 15 seconds.
Okay, well, I'll try to make it short. Good evening, everyone. My name is Irv Chokel. I've been an Evanston resident for about 40 years. I'd like to analyze what we're getting from the Robert Crown project. Without going into detail of every facility that's included, all but one are duplicated elsewhere in the city of Evanston. The only facility that's not duplicated is the ice rink. Essentially, we're spending $53 million that we can't afford for an ice rink. A minor minority of people will make use of that ice rink or even the other facilities. Yet we're going to raise our real estate taxes to build an ice rink. There's a couple alternatives. One, eliminate everything except the athletic fields and the ice rink. That would considerably reduce the cost. Another is to bring in an investor who would take over the project and immediately eliminate our maintenance costs that we are still having. It's not too late to change course. All they're doing this month is putting up fencing. The city council is not required to provide ice rinks, but it is expected to make sound financial decisions. Please reconsider.
Thank you, Irv. Okay, welcome, Mark. Are you? Is there Kathy? Is there Kathy Benz here? Okay, Mark Tendam. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you. It's good to be back. My name is Mark Tindem, and I'm here as a board member of Connections for the Homeless. When I left this council a year and a half ago, I looked around for opportunities in the community to continue to make a difference, and one of those areas that I thought I could help with was affordable housing and helping homelessness in this community. I looked at various organizations, and it became very apparent that Connections for the Homeless was that organization that could be the umbrella organization and had really dug itself out of some troubled times due to the budget fiasco with the state of Illinois, and put themselves on a really good track for success. That success has been is apparent now in our brand new strategic plan, and all of this has happened under the direction of a new executive director, Betty Boggs, along with really gifted staff and a very dedicated board of directors. So I'm here tonight to urge you to support Connections for the Homeless. For me, it's a no-brainer because I'm inside the organization now and I know their good work, and I think that the experience with this council and the TBRA program has been a positive one, and I hope we can continue to be part of that program. Thank you for your time, and have a good evening.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, I'm going to run through a bunch of other names. Alex Ball, Susan Banach, Dan Brown, Linda Damachek. Okay, I see you here, Linda. Come on up, Linda. I don't see the others hopping up after Linda. We've got Claire Kelly, Jennifer Shader was here, but maybe they're gone. Okay, welcome, Linda.
Okay, ready?
Yep.
Okay. Linda Damashek. I would like the City Council to tell the public this evening when and where, meaning which government body, the final revised demolition MOU language will be reviewed by the public prior to the City moving forward with the signing of this document between the City and the demolition group. On July 23rd, 3 important changes were included in 2 important amendments proposed and approved by City Council. These amendments are a substantial departure from the content of the original MOU. There will likely be substantial unfunded costs to be paid by the Evanston taxpayers if the revised MOU does not guarantee in writing there will be no cost to the city. The approved revisions to the MOU will be contradictory to what the demolition group has clearly stated. They have no intention of giving the city a blank check. The public deserves the opportunity to view the revised MOU language prior to the city moving forward. Don't take this proposal to the Preservation Commission until after the November referendum on the Harley Clark House, and that is what good government requires. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Jennifer, and then, again, I'm not sure if Claire Kelly is also going to speak, and then we have all the Paydens, Alvin Payden, Renee Payden, Tina Payden.
So, Jennifer Shader, 7th Ward, almost 47 years. And I was going to speak on Harley Clark, and I have changed my mind this evening. I'm going to try and keep it together. I originally planned to speak regarding my favorite place of contemplation, Harley Clark. However, since you, Mayor Haggerty, took the time to speak regarding suicide prevention awareness, I've changed direction. I sit on the board of directors of Evanston-based Alliance of Hope for Suicide Loss Survivors, the foremost nonprofit organization in the world providing support 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year to those who have lost loved ones to suicide. 23 years ago this month, my stepbrother died by suicide. As a side note, postvention and prevention communities don't use committed anymore, as it tends to connote a crime. Chan was 21, funny, handsome, and brilliant. He was a junior in the honors program at Stanford. At that time, there was very little available to suicide loss survivors in the way of support. 13 years later, out of that tragedy, my mother formed the Alliance of Hope here in Evanston at our kitchen island as a labor of love. Now, 10 years on, that little organization's virtual walls are bulging. Unfortunately, we belong to a club that no one wants to join, but whose membership grows every hour. Because suicide loss survivors are 10 times more likely to become suicidal in the aftermath, postvention is increasingly important. In fact, postvention is prevention. It's also increasingly important to fund postvention as a means of prevention. I often say that if we could eradicate the epidemic that is suicide today, we would still be caring for loss survivors for the next 100 years. As we go into Suicide Prevention Month next month, and look at it every other month and every other day, I ask you all to please take care of yourselves and please take care of each other, because postvention truly is prevention and mandatory and important. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. I think a lot of people in this room are really glad you decided to not talk about Harley Clark. There'll be time for that. I do, and there'll be plenty of time for that. So that was very moving. All right, the Paydens. Do we have Alvin Payden, Renee Payden, Tina Payden? We're almost getting to the end, folks, too. And then after that, we'll have Kira Kelly, and then Priscilla Giles, and then the last one is Nancy Shreenan. Thank you.
Alvin Payden Properties. In the early 60s, HUD came in and put low-income homes in every neighborhood. That is the only permanent low-income housing that we have in the city of Evanston right now. We've allowed developers to come in, and we buy them out for $200,000. The reserve on Ridge and Emerson, their time is about run out for. They had 10 units, and after 10 years, I think it is, that's going to run out. So there's going to be less places for the homeless. Paid-in properties will also be leaving the homeless market if we don't get paid. This is the only way we can survive. And so, as I said, we're the only ones that have unique places where at one time we place a family of 9. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Payden. We got Renee Payden, Tina Payden, then Kira Kelly.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, Assistant City Manager, and City Clerk. On July 30th, City Council requested the Executive Director of Connections to resolve the matter between Connections and the Payden family. Ms. Bogg thought she would ignore the directive and wait us out. Bessie Simmons, a Tiber graduate, spoke at Planning and Development. She was our tenant for 2 years. Connections, are they following HUD rules? No. We're inspected every year, so Connections could use an audit. If an audit is done, it will find Connections as ignoring HUD rules, as they ignored City Council. We are not going away, and we will go to the next step if this matter is not addressed. Connections will have to address their debt to Payden property sooner or later. Better sooner than later. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Renee. Tina Payden, then Kira Kelly, then Priscilla Giles, Nancy Shereen.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, City Clerk, and Assistant City Manager. My name is Tina Payden for Payden Properties. It appears that you have already made your decision, so I'll be brief. I will see you in court. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Kira Kelly, then Priscilla Giles, and then Nancy.
Tonight I'm speaking on behalf of Trish Stieglitz, Executive Development and Construction for a leading development company in Chicago. She's sorry she can't be here in time for public comment, and she says, I would like to continue my comments from the July 23rd meeting regarding the issuance of both the MOU and RFP for the demolition of the Harley Clark buildings. I'm even more concerned now that I have heard the MOU is being negotiated and it does not need to come back for review to City Council. If true, how do we, the citizens, know it has been agreed to? I've also heard the RFP has been issued at the end of this month. It can't possibly be issued for demolition or deconstruction of the Harley Clark houses until the following is done. An RFP, environmental engineers, they must contract with an environmental engineer for both interior inspection and exterior inspection for underground contaminated soils, underground storage tanks. Other Taiwanese past reports show that there's an underground storage tank near the coach house, a substantial amount of asbestos, lead paint, mold, all must be permitted for, then removed by a licensed remediation firm. Until this work is done, Cook County will not issue a permit for demolition. They need to hire a mechanical, electrical, plumbing engineer firm to inspect and detail the underground utilities services such as plumbing, electrical, fiber optics, and also pumps that feed the grotto, which are currently housed in the conservatory. Plumbing, sanitary, and fiber optics may need to be disconnected from the house and then relocated to the public restrooms and cannot be done without permits and drawings. The work must be also permitted and completed before demolition and construction.
It seems like I gotta have your wrap up.
There's a lot of detail here, but the point is that can possibly get a hold of the handle on costs for this group to go through with the MOU at this point.
Thank
you.
Thank you, Kira. Okay, we got Priscilla Giles and then Nancy Shreen.
Good evening, Priscilla Giles of 5th Ward. If we have a budget crisis here in Evanston, I don't think that we need to be spending money to make bus stops. I've been on the bus, I don't know if any of you ride the bus, but I've been on the bus when the bus has gone from Davis Street to Levy Center with making one stop. So we don't need stop signs, we just need to be able to stop, for the bus to stop. Not everyone is able to walk those long distances. Secondly, let's prevent homelessness and maintain and preserve and promote diversity by making sure we have housing that is affordable for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Giles. And our last speaker tonight is Nancy Shreen.
Sheridan. Yeah. So I'm Nancy Sheridan, 6th Ward, and I'm here to talk about Harley Clark and the fact that the draft MOU presented on July 23rd uses inappropriately vague terms when describing the scope of work included, and that the language does not match the Resolution 51R18 authorizing the city manager to execute the funding agreement or the MOU. So to wit, 51R18 says, quote, Evanston Lighthouse Dunes that offered to donate all of the funds necessary to restore the subject property to its natural state, including funding the cost to demolish the subject property, removal of trees, grade and seed the land, and site restoration. So compare that to what the MOU says, and this is quote D, whereas Evanston Lighthouse Dunes offers to provide the city of Evanston the necessary funding needed to pay for certain costs associated with demolishing the mansion and coach house, grade the subject property, and perform deferred landscape maintenance. Landscaping. Deferred landscape maintenance was not the wording of the city's resolution or of the Dunes Group's repeated public assertions. So it's just further evidence of a rushed process with no clarity as to what the city is agreeing to, what the city will be left with, or who will pay for it. So that's it.
Thank you, Nancy, and thank you everybody for taking the time to come out and speak passionately about a variety of issues. We're now going to move on to the orders of the business this evening. City Attorney, I'd just like some clarification here. We have SP1, which is special order of business. I know we had the hearing previously about the referendum. Do we need to have a vote as well again in this meeting?
I believe the council already voted on it. Correct?
We did vote. I'm just trying to understand that. I know that was a separate hearing. If there's anything additional we need to do in the city council meeting. Okay, so we have taken care of SP1 earlier with the hearing. Okay, nothing done there. Okay, so we've taken care of SP1 earlier. There's no action that the city council needs to take. We're going to move on to the consent agenda. Alderman Fleming, as the chair of Administration and Public Works, would you mind taking us through M1 and then through APW?
Sure. All right, M1 is the approval of minutes of the regular city council meeting.
Could you remove those, please?
All right, those are removed. Going on to Administration and Public Works. Tonight we approve the following. Payroll dated July 9, 2018 through July 22, 2018, in the amount of $3,201,457.76. The bills list dated August 14, 2018, $7,783,168.33. Credit card activity not including Amazon, period ending June 26, 2018, in the amount of $205,283.75. A3, the purchase of 3 Public Works Agency vehicles from Curry Motors and JX Peterbilt in the total amount of $162,917. I'm sorry, the total amount of $256,211 coming from the Equipment Replacement Fund. A4 is the fuel purchase of gas depot oil from Gas Depot Oil Company for July 6, 2018 through July 5, 2018. This is in the amount of $900,000 coming from the Major Maintenance Materials to Maintain Auto Fund. A15 is the Benchmark Analytics License Agreement. This is a 3-year agreement which is paid for through a grant by the Joyce Foundation. A6 is the contract with Capital Cement Company for 2018 alley and street improvement projects. This is in the amount of $874,761.30. Combined funding from general obligation bonds of $275,940, special assessment fund $213,645, and community development block grant $385,176.30. A contract with Bodella LLC doing business as Central Rug and Carpet for the Noyes Street Cultural Center Hallway and Common Area Improvement Project in the amount of $199,145. This funding is coming from the 2018 Capital Improvement Fund, but will be reimbursed by the Noyes Tenant Reserve Fund. A8 is the contract with McGuire somebody and Associates Incorporated.
Igleski.
Thank you. Associates Incorporated for architectural and engineering services related to the Water Quality Laboratory. This is an amount of $182,025. Funding is coming from the Water Fund, which includes $150,000 that's already budgeted for this year and $75,000 for next year. A9 is a contract with Giant Maintenance and Restoration for 2018 fire hydrant painting in the amount of $21,070. Funding will come from the Water Fund. A10. Okay, I have to check my notes. Sorry. A10 is change order number 2 to the engineering service contract for Fountain Square renovation project with Christopher Burke. This is in the amount of $31,113.01 through the Washington National Fund. Also, the liquidated damages against, well, in that case, the liquidated damages. A11 is the consulting contract amendment number 3 for the design and construction engineering services on Sherman Avenue between Davis Street and Church Street in the amount of $64,861.10, also from the Washington National Fund, and a savings there. A12 is off of the consent agenda. A13 is Resolution 54-R-18 approving settlement in Chicagoland Paving Contractors Incorporated versus City of Evanston et al. A14 is Resolution 53-R-18 authorizing a lease agreement with North Shore Senior Center for office space at the Civic Center in the amount of $511.50 for a 12-month period. A15 is Resolution 57-R-18, Illinois Department of Transportation Local Agency Agreement for Phase 2 Engineering on Howard Street Corridor Improvement Project. The funds are not to exceed $462,637. The City of Evanston is paying $137,363 from the Capital Improvement Bond. There's also a grant from the Surface Transportation Grant Program in the amount of $162,637 and a reimbursement from the City of Chicago in the amount of $300,000. Let's see, A16, Resolution 55-R-18, Phase 2 Engineering Services Agreement for the Howard Street Corridor Improvement Project in the amount of $600,000. It's a joint project with the City of Chicago, 50-50 funding provided by the City of Chicago. And the City of Evanston has received a federal grant for $162,637. A17, I think that needs to come off, right? We did suspension of the rules for introduction and action. Does it stay on the consent agenda?
You can, believe you can keep it on there, but just note that it's going to be for introduction and action.
Okay,
A17.
thank you. A17, Ordinance 83-0-18, authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement to sell water to a new wholesale water customer, the Village of Lincolnwood, Illinois. The rules were suspended. That was for introduction and action tonight. A18 is off of the consent agenda. A19 is Ordinance 94-0-18, amending City Code Section 10-11-17, Schedule 17, parking violation penalties to add Schedule 17, non-payment of special event parking fees. This is, I think that's, no, we voted that on. Do you say you want it off?
But the one before that I went off.
If 18's
Right,
off,
18
do you
is
want
off.
19 off?
Okay.
19's on. 19's on.
Well, depending on what we do with the first
Oh,
one.
okay.
You need to take a vote.
Okay, 19 is being pulled off. A20 is Ordinance 92-0-18, amending City Code Section 10-11-7, Schedule 7C, bus stops and zones to add signed bus stops on Dodge Avenue from Oakland Street to Main Street. The rules were suspended. That was for action and introduction as well. And then let me just go over here. And 21, A21 is Ordinance 82-0-18, vacating a portion of public land south of Church Street public right-of-way east of Florence Avenue to an abutting owner. The city payment will be made to the city in the amount of $16,000 as determined by a third-party appraisal for the property value. That is our report.
Terrific. Thank you, Alderman Fleming. Okay. Alderman Fisk, in the absence of Alderman Wilson, would you take us through the planning and
I'm sorry,
development?
excuse me, Mayor. I'm sorry. There was an amendment that was at A20 that I forgot to make. Is it too late to make that amendment?
No, go ahead and make
Okay,
that, and then
sorry.
we'll hand it to Alderman Fisk.
So A20 was Ordinance 90-0-18, and the... It's a small amendment. Can I amend now, or does it need to come off the consent agenda? It needs to come off.
Let's take it off.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Alderman Fisk, could you take us through planning and development?
Sure. P1 is the vacation rental license for 2130 Wesley. P2 is off the consent agenda.
Thank you.
P3 is Resolution 49R18, approving a plat of re-subdivision for 1239 Asbury Avenue and 1224 Dempster Street. That's for action. P4 is Ordinance 84018, granting a special use for a daycare center, domestic animal and kennel, Rex's Place at 2118 to 2120 Ashland Avenue, 1625 Payne Street, and 2147 and 2149 Dewey Avenue. That's for introduction. P5 is Ordinance 40018, amending subsection 6419B1 of the City Code, permitted obstructions and required yards general provisions, and that is on for action. P6 is Ordinance 81018, granting major zoning relief to establish a third dwelling unit in an existing two-family residence at 1822 Lyons Street. That's for action. P7 is Ordinance 77018, granting major zoning relief to eliminate parking and add fencing for Firehouse Grill at 750 Chicago Avenue. That also is for action.
Terrific. Alderman Ravel, could you take us through human services
Sure.
as well as economic development?
Okay. Item 01, Resolution 50-R-18, authorizing the city manager to sign the Greenest Region Compact 2 with the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus to support regional sustainability initiatives. Item 02, approval of funding for Chicago's North Shore Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Can you take that off, please?
Oops, okay.
And we have appointments. I'd like to take appointments off, and I'll explain when we take it off. Okay, do I have a second to the consent agenda?
Second.
City Clerk, could you call the roll, please?
Alderman Ruth Simmons. Aye. Alderman Suffredin. Alderman Ravel.
Aye.
Alderman Rainey. Alderman Fleming.
Aye.
Alderman Fisk. Alderman Braithwaite. Aye. Alderman Nguyen.
All right, the consent agenda passes the Evanston City Council on a vote of 8-0. We're now going to go to the items that were moved off the agenda. Alderman Rainey, I believe you took M1 off. Would you like to start? On the minute, those were the minutes.
Oh, the minutes, right. Sorry about that. Under the discussion, and I don't have the minutes up before me, but I will get them up right now. Sorry.
I'll make a note, I received an email from both Alderman Ravel and Alderman Fleming to make corrections, and so those corrections are noted.
Okay. But I don't know what their corrections were. So do you want to go ahead and talk about those, and then I'll talk about mine?
Sure. I had two corrections. One was item SP1. The minutes show what the two motion amendments were that were made, but it doesn't show that we approved the amended motion, which passed 5-3. And then SP2, I think, needed clarification because the motion that was made was to deny the appeal, and I think we need to make that clear in that part of the minutes.
And Alderman Fleming just provided her motion in writing.
Yes, I provided the motion I made to SP1, which was to amend the MOU to include an additional $100,000 to be used for the restoration of the green space, and that $100,000 is to be made available 30 days prior to the completion of demolition.
And now, which flies in the face of what the minutes say, and the minutes say that that amendment said that and to pursue deconstruction, and her amendment did not say that. So I would like to have and to pursue deconstruction stricken from the minutes. And I listened to the entire YouTube video, and I asked Alderman Fleming for her written amendment, and it did not say that, and also the video, when she was speaking right to my face, did not say that. And my discussion with the city manager and Ms. Storley, we discussed, it did not say that. The fact is, it did not say and pursue deconstruction. So I'm asking that it be struck from the minutes.
All right. So we would like to have the city clerk bring those minutes back to at the next city council meeting for review.
Excellent.
The amendments are noted, and I think we can pass the minutes.
What?
Would the city council like to pass the minutes with these noted amendments and changes from the council members, or would you prefer to wait and receive the corrected minutes?
I don't really care, but based on comments people made this evening, I think we should correct them, and so that for the record, dealing with such a kind of controversial issue, everything is correct.
And have them come back to the city council, Alderman Fleming. Okay.
For my correction.
All right. Let's go ahead and do that, Clerk Reed.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, Alderman Fleming, can you?
I'm sorry. There are 2 minutes, I believe, on the agenda today. So if there are no corrections with July 30th, then we should just approve those.
Okay.
Agreed.
So I can move approval for July 30th.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, July 30th minutes pass the City Council 8-0. All right, Alderman Fleming, could you take us through the items that were moved off the agenda for
Yes, so
APW?
A12 Amazon credit card activity period ending June 26, 2018, in the amount of $23,649.82 was moved so that Alderman Sufferman can abstain.
Is there a second?
Second.
Clerk Reed, could you take the roll? Seeing no lights.
Alderman Ruth Simmons. Aye. Alderman Sufferman. Alderman Ravel.
Aye.
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Alderman Fleming.
Aye.
Alderman Fisk. Alderman Braithwaite. And Alderman Nguyen.
Aye.
All right, A12 Amazon credit card activity of $23,649.82 passes the City Council on a 7-0 vote with Alderman Sufferman abstaining. A18.
Okay, A18, Ordinance 93-0-18, amending City Code Section 10-11-11. 10-11-10, Schedule 10, limited parking to add Schedule 10-0, special Saturday special event parking pilot program. That was amended to strike the 50-block radius that was in the initial ordinance and to include parking lots commonly referred to as Lot 4 and Lot 54.
Is there a second? Okay. Conversation, Alderman Ravel.
Upon further reflection and discussion, I would like to amend that amendment, so it only includes Lot 54 and does not include Lot 4. So basically, we'd be including the commuter parking along Poplar, but not the parking lot on Central Street.
Okay, seeing no conversation, do we want to go ahead and vote on that amendment? All.
Well, I have a question. So nothing in the neighborhood is changing? Everything's staying the same?
No. Everything else is stricken. The only place the new special event parking regulation is applying is to the strip of commuter parking on Poplar.
So can you just, because I don't know the streets over there, so where is Popular?
I'm sorry.
The parking lot.
But not the Central Street parking lot.
Okay, so where is Popular?
We're just talking about a parking lot. All the neighborhood streets are going to be as they are.
As they are currently.
Okay. So all the complaints we heard from neighbors,
right,
they're
taken care of.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Alderman Braithwaite. Alderman Braithwaite.
I think I was speaking to Alderman Nguyen, just seeking to get clarification. So you're removing the parking on Central as well as the city-owned parking lot west of Green Bay Road?
We're removing everything except the commuter parking along Poplar, right next to the Metro tracks, just on the east side of the Metro tracks.
That's your amendment.
That's the only place it would apply. And that's technically city's parking lot 54.
So that's the only place where this pilot program
right, exactly.
would exist.
Right. And so this would be a way for us to test whether there is a demand for $40 parking spaces.
And just your thought, Alderman Ravel, behind removing the parking on Central Street?
Excuse me?
Your thought behind removing the parking along Central Street?
I'm concerned about whether having this $40 parking fee, what it would do to the Central Street businesses, and whether they would depend on the ability of shoppers to use those the spaces in that lot. So that's why I'm removing it, suggesting that we remove it. You look puzzled.
I mean, I think I could argue either way that during the football season that those businesses get more traffic than they would at any other time, but I do want to be considerate because it is your ward. So
thank you.
Okay, Alderman Fleming?
Yeah.
How many spaces are on Popular?
270.
Against the Metro tracks?
Is this where
Okay.
Commuters park there now.
Commuter, right. It's
during the weekday.
Right next to the viaduct. Okay. So again, I guess I feel like Alderman Braithwaite. I mean, I will support it because it's, not my ward, so I don't know, but it seems like a little bit of a miss to me.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. It wasn't just for the.
Alderman Fisk.
What are the hours for this? When you're talking about all day, is it all day Saturday or all day game day, any game day till midnight or?
The proposal was starting, I think, 4 hours before the game and going 2 hours after the game.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Seeing no more lights, we have an amendment to what was approved at the committee. So could we go ahead and vote on the amendment? We had a motion and then a second on that amendment. All in favor?
Aye.
Any disagree? Okay. The amendment then passes 8-0, and then we had a motion and second on the original A18 with the amendments that came out of committee. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so that all passes 8-0. That's A18. Okay, A19. Alderman Fleming.
Ordinance 94-0-18, amending City Code Section 10-11-17, Schedule 17, parking violation penalty to add Schedule 17L, non-payment of special event parking fee. This was for introduction and action.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? This is A19. It was related to A18. Okay, so seeing no lights, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, A19 passes 8-0. All right, Alderman Fleming, A20.
A20, Ordinance 92-0-18, amending City Code Section 10-11-7, Schedule 7C, bus stops and zones to add signed bus stops on Dodge Avenue from Oakland Street to Main Street. This was also suspension of the rules for introduction and action.
Second.
All right, so.
Any discussion, Alderman Fleming?
Yeah, so I actually need to amend this. I forgot that in APNW. So the amended ordinance just affects one bus stop. So it's at Dodge Avenue on the east side. In the memo, it says north of Keeney, and that actually should read east side, south of Keeney. It's a small change, but it makes a difference for the people who live there. Mm-hmm. And just if I might clarify Ms. Giles' comment about paying for bus stops, this is done for a couple of different reasons. One is that we were out of compliance for ADA, so we need to be in compliance. Two, we operate under flag stops, which people have mixed feelings about. That this will actually put in some small cement pads, and so when we do have people in wheelchairs or walking devices or such, they're not standing in muddy grass or trying to find a place to stand, and this will actually guarantee that the bus stops. And if you catch the bus and you flag it, you will realize that bus drivers, although they're great, can use their discretion whether or not they stop for you based on how they determine how safe that stop is. And so now with stops that have signs and an ADA accessible stop, our hope is that more people will actually catch the bus, and people where no other bus is, the bus drivers will stop. I understand, it might not be a big deal to some, but for those who are dependent on our buses, particularly in the winter, I'd much rather us kind of limit and have designated stops and have people who are getting past, particularly on Dodge where we have the bike lanes and it makes the stops difficult. This also will adjust some of the stops so that the bus can pull fully over, lower their wheelchair ramp, and allow people to access the bus safely.
Is there a second to her amendment?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the amendment passes 8-0. Can we have a motion for the, we had a motion for the original and a second. Seeing no lights, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so A20 passes the City Council 8-0. Okay. Alderman Fisk, could you take us through P2?
Mm-hmm. It's tenant-based rental assistant renewal funding. Housing and Homelessness Commission and staff recommend approval of a funding renewal of $300,000 in home funds to continue the current tenant-based rental assistance program administered by Connections for the Homeless. The funding will provide stable housing for 2 years to up to 10 at-risk Evanston families with children under the age of 18 in Evanston that are underemployed and break the cycle of poverty and instability by developing the capacity to earn a living wage to support their families and afford market-rate rental housing. The increase in funding from $250,000 to $300,000 is due to the increasing costs to rent in Evanston. Funding is from the Home Investment Partnerships Program. Currently, the city has a total of $474,275.33 in available uncommitted home funds. It's for action. I move approval.
Second.
Okay, Alderman Braithwaite.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just after listening to the Payton's public comments, I'm a little concerned. I'm looking at the time at night, and I don't want to open up a debate, but I am concerned about the family not receiving dollars, and I don't know if the executive director can just make some clarification around that. No, I didn't see it.
There was.
Is it? I didn't. I didn't see the memo. So, regardless, I mean, she publicly said that she hasn't been paid. So, if you can clarify that, I'd appreciate it.
Alderman, thank you for your question. The amount that she says she's owed is in dispute. So we don't feel like we owe that money because she, especially tonight, indicated that she may pursue some legal action. I'm not really free to discuss more of that. What I will tell you is that this
contract is paid to us in arrears, so we never receive money that we haven't already paid out to someone. So we're not sitting on some money that we are just holding on to and not paying someone. So we are reimbursed after we've paid someone. This is how the contract works in general.
You're reimbursed after you paid.
That's correct.
Can I just quickly glance at the memo? I know. If you have it up, then the dollar amount is significant. So if the money...
Let's go.
Yeah.
Oh, you done? Alderman Rainey.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm going to make a proposal here, and it's going to involve you, Alderman Braithwaite, and me, because I think we both have a relationship with both
Sure.
the Paydens and the organization. I'm going to move that we support the motion to fund Connections, because we have two groups here. We have the Paydens who provide affordable housing. We have Connections who are the only organization capable of distributing this money in a responsible way. And I believe that there's a way to bring them together. And I would hope that the Paydens and Connections for the homeless and Ms. Flax would accept our offer to meet with both parties and bring them together and find a solution. Because I think he said, she said, and So if we could do that and set up a time, I think that would be great. But we have to move on. We have to approve this tonight. And I heard Ms. Payden say, even though I heard the second thing she said, but I did hear her first say that she would be willing, if this could be resolved, to continue to work with Connections. And
So,
I mean,
I see her shaking her head.
I loved her mother, and I believe it can work out.
Sure.
Don't you?
Sarah, can we prioritize that meeting just between now and Friday?
Oh, no, I can't do it before Friday.
No, I mean, if you're not available.
Well, we can do it. Yeah.
Okay, great. Seeing no more lights, we had a motion that was seconded. City Clerk, could you take the roll on P2, tenant-based rental assistance renewal funding, in the amount of $300,000.
Alderman Ruth Simmons.
Aye.
Alderman Sufferton. Alderman Ravel.
Aye.
Alderman Rainey. Alderman Fleming. Alderman Fisk. Alderman Braithwaite. Alderman Nguyen.
Okay, P2, tenant-based rental assistance renewal funding of $300,000 passes the Evanston City Council on an 8-0 vote.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, I believe I was in error by not pulling P4 off. We made a amendment to that in committee.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, it's just, well, we don't want to put the amendment in the condition? Okay, all right.
When it comes for action.
Okay.
We'll take care of it?
Never mind.
Okay, great. Excellent. All right, that's one little hiccup we didn't need. Okay. The last thing was appointments. I had asked for this to be pulled off. I'd like to... Is that pulled off? Excuse me, O2 is pulled off before we get to appointments. Alderman Ravel?
This was approval for funding for Chicago's North Shore Convention and Visitors Bureau for fiscal year 2018 in the amount of $81,174.
Is that a motion?
This is for action.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Alderman Fleming.
So I had a quick question. I know we went through this last year, and it said in the packet that there was additional material that actually wasn't in the packet. And then I had some questions that I asked that didn't get answered. So I have, I thought that the director was here, but I realized it's late, so maybe, oh, hi. All right. So here are my questions, and I don't know if you'll have the answers. Can you provide some kind of tracking in terms of what our financial gain is for membership here? And how much of the money is used for staffing and how much is used for direct marketing or other activities?
Great. The first question is, wait, I'm trying to remember it now.
That's okay. So how much, essentially we pay you to market, and how much do we make, or how many rooms do we book?
First, the how we track it. We get a Smith Travel Research Report, which tells us the occupancy, the revenue per available room, and ADR, which is average daily rate. We review that with the Evanston hotels, and then we review that at our board meetings. So that is how we track how we do with the hotels, because that translates into the taxes then that come to each community that we represent. And then for the attractions and hotels and restaurants that we represent, they're all members of our organization. And when this all started, because our bureau started as the Evanston Convention and Visitors Bureau, it was very important to the city of Evanston that there be public-private partnership. So they wanted buy-in from the people that are benefiting from it most, hospitality businesses, so they also pay into us. So a metric we use is the fact that they're members and they renew every year and they're very engaged in our programs. So that's how we measure that. And you also have, we don't measure or get any money from like restaurant tax. It's really done all out of hotel tax, but we also impact that.
Okay, but in your Smith report, when you look at the occupancy and the rate and such, there's no way for you to correlate how much of that is because...
How much from our efforts alone? No, not really. But we are expected to report, and we do report to the hotels all the business that we have a just bureau-only report, a sales report that tracks occupancy and average daily rate, and we send all the leads. We're a lead generation business to the hotels, and we track it, and they track it.
Okay. And then the next question, do you want me to repeat it?
No, the one about percent of. Yes. So just another fact that I think is interesting, the city, our request is for $81,174. Our budget this year is $1.85 million. So Evanston's contribution is 4% of our budget, which was another request that we diversify our funding sources. And of our staff, 23% of our budget goes to salaries. But I also want to clarify that it's not administrative. We're 6 people, and 3 of those people do direct sales. They're sales and marketing. They're booking business. They're meeting with clients. They're salespeople. They're not administrative people, but it's 23% of our budget.
All right, thank you.
Let's stay up there in case we have another question. I'm not sure. Alderman Fisk?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, this funding is really important to the hotels in Evanston, many of which are in the downtown and in the first and fourth wards, who are facing increased competition from Airbnb, and I mean, it's downtown. But it's a very tough business right now, and I just want to make sure that they're supporting them. They are paying the hotel tax, a lot of it, and this is a really necessary thing. Alderman Fleming, like you, when I first came on the council, I asked the question about this because I was concerned about it, and as I learned more about it and realized how much our hoteliers really depend upon it, I'm convinced that this is money well spent.
Terrific. Thank you, Alderman Fisk. Seeing no more lights, and we had a motion that was seconded. City Clerk, could you take the roll on O2, approval of funding for the Chicago's North Shore Convention and Visitors Bureau for fiscal year 2018 in the amount of $81,174.
Alderman Ruth Simmons?
Aye.
Alderman Suffredin? Aye. Alderman Ravel?
Aye.
Alderman Rainey? Aye. Alderman Fleming?
No.
Alderman Fisk? Alderman Braithwaite? Aye. Alderman Nguyen?
Aye.
All right. O2 passes the Evanston City Council on a 7-1 vote. All right. Thank you, Gina, for everything that you guys are doing for Evanston and the entire North Shore. All right. We're going to move to appointments. I'd ask that these be pulled off. I don't know. I'd like to motion that 2 of these candidates, the Housing and Community Development Act committee member Michael Miro, who's up for reappointment, and Economic Development Committee member Hecky Powell, who's up for reappointment, be approved this evening. Alderman Rainey? let's see if I do.
Something very strange is happening with these reappointments. I've not seen an occasion where members of a committee who have served loyally and consistently and well have not been reappointed if they wanted to serve. And I mean, I know there's an issue with a serious issue with one member, but for the other members, there's no issue. And I am finding it really, really difficult to handle why members of the Community Development Block Grant Committee, the reappointments, are being treated this way. And I've met with you privately on this, and the reason we are notified in advance of people who are going to be put on committees or not put on, so that we can meet with you privately. And this one reappointee, who has been consistently yanked from the agenda for reappointment, it's just so disturbing. And then I'm looking at other people's minutes and I see that he's on another committee. Are you going to pull him off that committee also?
Oh, I wasn't aware of that candidate being on another committee.
He's on another committee. He's on the alternative to arrest committee. And I mean, the reason this person is being taken off this committee it has absolutely nothing to do with Community Development Block Grant. Absolutely nothing to do. And as I explained to you, this person happens to be an attorney. It just has absolutely nothing to do with it. And why don't Alderman,
Rainey, why don't we take the conversation up about that potential conflict of interest at the Rules Committee? We can have a conversation about it as a council.
All right. Does
that sound good?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm holding. I mean, I didn't deny him. Right? He's that individual you're talking about is just not on here. But we could have that conversation there, because I'd like to have a conversation at the Rules Committee about where we draw the line with conflicts of interest on some of these candidates. Okay. We got a couple.
As long as we can bring up other conflicts that are potential, just like this one, that we're ignoring.
Sure. Okay. Sure. And that would be helpful.
But this committee is desperate for its members because we're going into the funding season. Right. We cannot operate without a quorum.
Understood. Okay. Alderman Fisk and then Alderman Nguyen.
I just question whether the Rules Committee is the right place for that. But I defer to Alderman Rainey.
Well, I don't want to go to the Ethics Committee. I hate when people are dragged there. It's just not right.
Okay. Alderman Nguyen.
I just want to say, point of order, I think that we have a process so that this type of discussion does not happen in the public forum, because otherwise people won't offer to themselves as to serve on these committees. And so I think that that if there is a discussion, it should wait until after a council meeting.
I've tried.
No, but but to that point, right? I mean, council members, there's 9 people up here. And there are 9 people, as we all know, that don't always agree on every single issue, and that's sort of the form of government that we have. So yes, aldermen come to me and say, Mayor, absolutely not. I don't think this person should be on this committee, for instance. And I may have a different opinion, right? Because I'm just one of now 10 people that are up here, and and that's just sort of the nature of it. So sometimes, right, we have appointments that come up here. The vast majority, I think, unanimously are consented to. But sometimes there's 1 or 2 people that say, no, I'm going to vote no. So I'm not, there's natural tension that exists up here on different issues. So I'm not quite sure how to handle it, other than I think a conversation at the Rules Committee where this body can sort of talk about where they see the lines in terms of.
I completely agree that we at Rules we should take up issues of potential appointees who have conflicts of interest.
I don't think we should discuss potential appointees at the council dais when we have a disagreement.
Mm-hmm.
You either vote up or down.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I would agree with that. I think that that's a respectful thing to do. So there are two individuals I'd like to put forward for an up or down vote this evening, and that's Michael Miro and Hecky Powell. And I guess point of order to the city clerk. Does a council member need to motion that, or can I motion that?
To the
city attorney. Sorry, it's not even past midnight, and I'm messing up. Yeah.
I can make that motion.
Okay. Thank you.
I move for reappointment to Housing and Community Development Act Committee Michael Miro, and for reappointment to the Economic Development Committee Hecky Powell.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I oppose.
I'm sorry, you're opposed?
One.
Yes.
Okay.
With
all right.
one.
We voted them together, so let's just say it passes on a vote of 7 to 1. 7. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Call the wards. Let's start with Alderman Ruth Simmons tonight.
No report.
Alderman Sufferman. Alderman Ravel. Alderman Rainey.
I want to thank Mayor Hegarty and former Mayor Tisdall for joining us on our Howard Street walk, which was very poorly attended, except for half of the police department.
Well, we did have a massive downpour like 5 minutes before your walk.
It stopped at 5:30 exactly, and the sun came out, and it was beautiful, and all the stores were open, and it was a very pleasant walk. So thank you very much for coming, and next year it'll be much better attended. Thank you.
Alderman Fleming.
Yeah, so due to the downpour, I had to cancel the National Night Out. And so in lieu of that, myself as the 9th Ward and Ridgefield Park District will partner together to host a 9th Ward Community Night on August the 22nd from 5 to 7 at the Ridgefield Park on Bridge and Seward. So there'll be food trucks and fire trucks and all that great stuff. So an email will be coming. And also on August the 23rd at 7 p.m., I'll be having my ward meeting at Fire Station number 2, which is on the corner of Madison and Custard.
Terrific. Thank you, Alderman Fleming. Alderman Fisk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to invite all First Warders to the next First Ward meeting, which is Tuesday, September 4th at the library from 7 to 9. There'll be a presentation on the new project, 1621 Chicago Avenue. That is going to be there are some changes to that project, so we'll be talking about those. We're also going to have a conversation about the Duluth Civility Project and see what we can do to bring some more civil discourse to our city and our discussions in this room, hopefully, and online. Concerned today about how some of these emotional issues are having an effect, a negative effect in the community and preventing people from coming forward and expressing their views publicly because they are concerned about retaliation both in person and online. We had an unfortunate incident today in the neighborhood, so I think it's time to really have this discussion, as I've told all of you previously. So hopefully we'll make some progress on that at the ward meeting, and everybody's invited.
Great. Thank you, Alderman Fisk. Alderman Braithwaite.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a round of acknowledgement for our staff the last couple of weeks. The first Sunday, I just want to thank our Parks and Rec staff, Director Hemingway, particularly our youth outreach team, Bob Dorniker. We celebrated Jamaican Independence Day and had another record crowd, and the staff really went above and beyond to help support the event. I also want to acknowledge Commander Melvin Collier and the PST team for all their support, as well as the public works staff. And then this last week, Tuesday, for National Night Out, it was myself, Alderman Simmons, Alderman Ravel, the Parks and Recs team moved the combined events to the Fleetwood Jourdain Center, which in a very short period of time, we had a pretty decent crowd, and I think one of the thoughts that just circulated around the room is the possibility of doing a larger community event. It doesn't take away from those who want to do something in their neighborhoods, but that would be something that's interesting to explore. And then as well, I want to acknowledge the Parks and Recs team, Director Hemingway, the outreach team, and all the staff surrounding the Mayor's Summer Youth Employment Program. This year, out of all the years, I've heard nothing but positive comments citywide. So congratulations on a very successful Summer Youth Employment Program. Clearly, we saw that this evening on the faces of some of our kids. So thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Braithwaite. Alderman Wing?
No report.
Okay, Alderman Wing, would you mind leading us into executive session this evening?
Yes, I move to convene into executive session pursuant to 5 Illinois compiled statutes 120/2A. I move that the City Council convene into executive session to discuss agenda items regarding personnel and minutes. These agenda items are permitted subjects to be considered in executive session and are enumerated exceptions under the Open Meetings Act. These exceptions are 5 ILCS 120/2A, C1, C21, and are set forth as follows. 2C, exceptions. A public body may hold closed meetings to consider the following subjects. 1, the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee of the public body or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity. 21, discussion of minutes of meetings lawfully closed under this act, whether for the purposes of approval by the body of the minutes or semi-annual review of the minutes as mandated by Section 2.06.
Is there a second?
Second.
City Clerk, could you take the roll, please?
That was a heck of a detailed motion. Alderman Ruth Simmons. Aye. Alderman Suffredin. Alderman Ravel. Aye. Alderman Rainey. Alderman Fleming. Alderman Fisk. Aye. Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye.
And Alderman Nguyen.
Aye.
All right, the Evanston City Council on a vote of 8-0 is going to recess into executive session. Thank you, everybody, for coming out and for watching this evening. Good night.